elected representatives during the reserve period, they will continue to be able to approach the elected representatives even post reservations. Very important points for us to understand. Last point. I'll come back to this table 9 a little later. This point. So basically, what we want to ask is whether incomes go up. So here we have an income production function, so to speak. This has been used by Heckman elsewhere, to try to articulate whether income is a function of time allocation. And these are all endogenous, you see. So there are photos, this is the econometrics part, so I'll quickly go through this. These two tests at the very end tell you that, yeah, they are truly endogenous, but the model that we have used is the correct way to correct for that endogeneity. So we have done what is called a two-stage instrumental variable regression, and what we have done is in the la-la land, so to speak. So wonderful. I mean, this nobody will shout at us and say that this is really bad. So what is it that we find? We find that on an average, self-employment, and these are elasticities, you see, and also represents rate of growth. And the point here to be noted is that of all types of time allocation, if they are able to spend time doing self-employment and home cultivation, this can contribute to real income growth substantially, right? Across gender. Okay, but that is not interesting in itself. Let's see what are the factors affecting non-agricultural wage labor. This column here. So these are the various instruments, and instruments include political reservations, and the time to fetch water, the non-agricultural wage rates, inheritance of land plus wealth. You see, the point that I always say is that the government of India should worry about one aspect. It has put in place large number of legislations towards one particular outcome. For example, there are 3-4 legislation that I can count that talk about empowerment of women, right? Including political reservations. So you have political reservations, the Hindu Succession Act amendment, you have large number of amendments and acts that empower women, but they could all be competing with one another and could create a sense of crowding out, so to speak. What is happening here? We see what is happening here, and particularly I want to focus on the time to collect water. If the time to collect water goes up, particularly for females, then the self-employment declines by about 6% decline in self-employment. 36% increase in the time spent in household labor. How does it get translated into welfare? Right? So our focus is on fetching water, you see, but you can't really talk about time to collect water in isolation, is the point that I'm trying to make. Right? It is important. We found that it is important to focus on the time spent in fetching water. It does all kinds of things. Time spent in fetching water leads to a decline in all productive activities. Other labor days decline, self-employment declines, non-agricultural labor days decline, and household labor goes up quite significantly if you spend more time in fetching, particularly for women. How it affects other gender, of course. I mean, it affects the entire household, but certainly women are adversely affected if the time spent in fetching water goes up. And given this outcome, given that self-employment contributes significantly to real incomes, significantly more compared to all other factors, if you reduce the time spent in self-employment, then the incomes received by members of the household will decline quite sharply. Right? So the coefficient on the time spent in fetching water is one of the largest. Right? It's 6%. The non-agricultural labor days decline by 1%. The labor days decline by about 4.5%, 4.7%. but the self-employment declines by 6%. And given that outcome, we believe that time spent in fetching water is a significant burden to household work. But we also need to look at other factors. You see, we have things like inheriting land and inheritance of wealth. Our data also tells us something about the relationship between inheritance, wealth, and hiring of household help servants. So, the point is that kind of activity doesn't seem to affect the ultra poor and poor. The ability to hire household help and servants is at the higher wealth levels and inheritance levels, and certainly it contributes to reduce time spent in household work. Because you might ask, why does inheritance and all this other stuff lead to reduction in household labor? It's because of that. Right? You are a wealthy household and or a landlord, you have a bunch of servants to take care of household work. So that might be totally unrelated to the problems related to water. Right? So I will stop there. I won't try to believe that I can say something on policy, but certainly there is enough here about the need to fine-tune certain aspects of policies related to provision of water. It also highlights the importance of provision of water. It certainly should help you to sort of back up the reason why you moved away from habitations to focusing on households, and it certainly drives home the point, the need for having the households and the need for having members of villages to participate more actively in the process of governance. It also points out the fact that there are a large number of parallel bodies related to water management that are in place. We had that discussion there, whether they should report to the Panchayat president. Now, whether the Pani Panchayats are able to, in fact reporting to the Panchayat presidents is not very clear to me. In Maharashtra, they seem to be having a loose relationship. The elected Panchayats and the Pani Panchayats seem to be apparently are having a very loose relationship, but fairly symbiotic relationship. Right? So I will stop there, and thank you very much.
I'm delighted to now turn it over to Mr. Vijay Bhaskar and Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram.